A title card reads, brought to you by on screen, 7 early teenage students, all wearing casual clothes, speak in turns.
We are the 7th and 8th grade classes from Skagway School located in Skagway, Alaska.
We are doing this project in conjunction with the National Park Service.
The one question that we were asked the most is,
what is it like to grow up in such a small community?
We asked community members aging from 14 to 87 to help us answer this question.
Title card, growing up in Skagway throughout the years. Individuals of varied ages, seated in front of a white screen, respond to a question asked by a young man. Bilingual, an older woman wearing a black scarf and black and white polka dot blouse.
in one word, how could you describe Skagway?
Great.
Kathy O'Daniel, a middle-aged woman wearing wire-rimmed glasses and lavender top.
Safe.
Dorothy Brady, a middle-aged woman wearing a long-sleeved blue and gray t-shirt.
Freedom.
Ms. Meyer, a middle-aged woman with short, dark blonde hair wearing a striped shirt and jeans.
Unique.
Rosalie Westfall, a teenage girl with short, light brown hair wearing a black sweater.
Safe.
Danny, a teenage boy with a thin mustache and black hair wearing a bright red t-shirt.
Diverse.
Maddie, a teenage girl with long, straight blonde hair wearing a long-sleeved yellow and gray t-shirt.
Isolated.
Speaking in an interview, bilingual represents the 1930s.
Why would you describe it as such?
Because you can leave your front door and walk, within 30 minutes be walking by a stream you can drink the water out.
Kathy O'Daniel represents the 1950s.
We could go anywhere, play with anybody. We were welcomed in other people's houses as much as we were our own. We didn't have a lot of strangers here. We didn't have a road out. We rarely had a cruise ship in.
Dorothy, 1960s and 70s.
We were able to go many places in town, and everybody would watch out for us, and I always felt safe. I never felt like, there weren't very many strangers in town.
Ms. Meyer represents 1970s.
It was unique because it was such a small environment that I had a lot of different experiences that other people might not have had.
Rosalie Westfall represents 2015.
I just think Skagway is a really safe community to grow up. Like, even though a bunch of people come here in the summer, you always have that community, like, looking out for you. And it's just a good place to grow up because, everybody has your back.
Danny, a teenage boy with a thin mustache and black hair wearing a bright red t-shirt.
I think Skagway is really diverse because it has multiple communities. There's the people who live in town, the people that come during the summer, and there's also another community out in Dayton.
Maddie, a teenage girl with long, straight blonde hair wearing a long-sleeved yellow and gray t-shirt.
I think it's isolated because there aren't any malls or fast food places. You can only get out by ferry or a 6-seater plane, so I think it's isolated.
A title card reads, what was the school like? 3 young people in sweatshirts stand in front of Skagway City Schools in 2015.
This is Skagway School. Skagway School consists of kindergarten through 12th grade.
It has 63 kids in it, each grade containing 10 kids or less.
Our 7th and 8th grade class has 7 people total. Our graduating seniors have 3 people.
Interview with bilingual, 1930s.
It was 4 rooms downstairs, 1st and 2nd in one, 3rd and 4th in another, 5th and 6th, and 7th and 8th, and then the upstairs was the assembly hall and all the high school.
Kathy O'Daniel represents the 1950s.
What was the school like?
Well, there were a lot more kids in it, for one thing. Our high school we must have had probably 50 kids in it or more, as opposed to now. It was the old school where the rec center is now, and the downstairs was the elementary school, and the upstairs was junior high and high school.
Ms. Meyer, 1970s.
I went to the school that is now the rec center, and, that was the gym. The school itself is now torn down, but it was on State Street.
And Rosalie Westfall speaks for 2015.
It's fluctuated a lot. We've been from 60 kids to 80 kids throughout my entire career. I had 8 kids in my class when I was in preschool, and we're having a graduating class of 3 this year, so it's definitely gone down.
The title card reads, Extracurricular Activities. Interview segments with Kathy O'Daniel representing the 1950s.
What extracurricular activities did you do?
I played volleyball and basketball, and I was considered a star because I was tall. I wasn't any good, but I was tall.
Dorothy Brady on behalf of the late 60s and early 70s.
Basketball, volleyball. In junior high there was music. I really liked that, and then they had to give up the music program. They had the Trailblazer. That was the school newspaper. I worked on that.
And Rosalie Westfall speaks for 2015. She refers to FLL, which stands for First Lego League.
I did FLL from 6th through 8th grade, and we traveled a lot. We went to Juneau and Anchorage and Atlanta and St. Louis for that. And then for my freshman and sophomore year of high school, we did the first Tech Challenge. So that was we didn't get out of Alaska, but we went to like Sitka and Hoonah and Fairbanks and Anchorage for that. So we did a lot of traveling. And then for we went all over Southeast. I did volleyball for my junior and senior year, and we spent a lot of time in Southeast in a bunch of places. So it was really fun.
Well, we
3 2015 junior high students. Danny and Maddie describe additional activities. Nearby sits a third student, a young boy wearing a blue t-shirt with the school's logo, a panther on the front.
Well, we have lots of sports like basketball, track, and cross country. We also have wrestling.
Volleyball and spirit squad.
There's also a robotics team here that's been very successful. For most of the sports here, we travel a lot, and for long periods of time. Like, we can be on the ferry from 7 hours to 36 hours at a time.
Title card, How Has Skagway Changed? Interview with B. Lingle, 1930s.
Do you have anything else that you'd like to state about Skagway?
Even then, a lot of buildings on Broadway were empty and unpainted, and the window panes were broken out, and it looked like a ghost town already. And our small First Nations or Native families that we had a few of them in town, and the women used to make their beautiful jeweled moccasins and sit in the doorways in the summer when a cruise ship came in. If we had 4 a week, we thought we were lucky.
What was like the main occupation that most people had?
The railroad.
Okay.
And the men were gone 2 days and a night, and 2 days and a night, and the women were in charge of, if they had indoor plumbing, of if it froze, and they raised the kids and took care of everything, because it wasn't like the man was working right in town. He was heading up over the mountains into the Yukon on the train.
Kathy O'Daniel,
The
1950s.
community changed.
Well, it's cleaned up. It's more colorful. Like my mom said, it's not old buildings that are falling down anymore. The Park Service has cleaned them up, fixed them up, and new buildings that have been built, especially on Broadway, have kept with the historical nature, and I think it's just beautiful.
Dorothy Brady on behalf of the late 60s and early 70s.
There are lots of cruise ships, lots of people. There's a highway now. When I was growing up, there was a rock wall at the end of the road. It's as far as you could go. The buildings were all boarded up when I was growing up.
Ms. Meyer, 1970s.
There was no National Park Service, and they came in 1976, I want to say, and that's when they came in, and the buildings, they started repainting all the buildings and fixing them up, and they used to be fairly run down. There's a lot more jewelry stores now than there used to be in downtown.
Title card, What did you do after school? Rosalie responds for 2015.
What did you do after school and in your free time?
I liked to hang out with my friends a lot, or go online and do like social networking and watch Netflix. But I spent a lot of time doing homework at the school too.
Dorothy, 1960s and 70s.
Ran around town, rode my bike, built forts on the hillside, climbed to Lower Lake, Smuggler's Cove, Reed's Falls, Baby Mountain Trail.
Kathy, 1950s and 60s.
Actually, if I was grounded, and I was grounded a lot, I would get on the phone with my friend Nadine and we'd go through the new Sears Roebuck catalog page by page, talking about what we wanted.
And cut.
Maddie, a junior high school student, lowers her hand in a chopping motion. Credits roll. Produced by Ms. Myers Junior High Skagway School. May 1st, 2015. Skagway, Alaska.